It's me, King Polly, and you are in King Pollys World, where dreams come true. And I hope you're ready because we have an amazing guest today. Truly, truly. I am joined today by a woman who is a personal inspiration of mine that I met a couple of years ago in the art scene of Vegas, downtown. She is a visual artist and really an amazing human being where you can't help but just feel happy when you're around her, in my humble opinion.
Sweet.
Please welcome Artist Jamari.
Howdy.
Yay! I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for coming.
Yes. After a crazy intro to 2020, we finally made it.
Looks like we made it.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
We're still here.
Yes.
Big step.
It is. And I met you in the Artifice, and you were doing live painting, which to me, I can't do. Like, I don't have that in me. The pressure, people watching me, and painting itself, I don't have the patience of waiting in between layers or anything like that. And you were just so like magnetic, and your style and the colors, and you were so friendly, and it really was one of those things where I was like, wow, like I feel like I just met somebody really, really cool.
Oh, I love that, because I really do try to welcome people in the way that I would want to be welcomed in, and just really offer that kind of reflective energy. So I love live painting. I feed off the energy. I'm really like empathetic, and so I think that was probably with the Love Yourself Foundation. So it was always so loving and such a great vibe. And so I don't know, it's kind of different. Typically when I'm doing the live painting, it's abstract because I'm just kind of like vibing off the energy that's being presented. So it's totally a different experience than just painting an idea or a concept or something.
Totally. And that's one thing that's really cool with you. You have so many different styles.
Yeah, I used to kind of fight that, but now I'm embracing
it. Isn't that hard? Like when people ask you, right? Like, who are you? What kind of art do you do?
Yeah. And just, I think what you see a lot in the world is like the artists that are well known is because they have one style, you know? And so when you're trying to figure it out, you think that you need to do that too. You need to fit your work into one style. So that's why I say I spent a lot of time thinking that I needed to do that. And now I realize one of my gifts is that I can do so many styles. Like, you know, where I used to think, well, I'm not fitting in. Or,
totally.
You know, those weird thoughts that we get, our inner critic. It just is, I don't know, through the last 2 years and all the changes, for me, it's helped me to embrace myself a lot more instead of, you know, comparing or like keeping up with this other false ideals.
Totally.
You got a reality check.
Yes. From fighting yourself, right? To accepting what really is.
Yeah. Just, I think we got that pause, like the whole world went into a pausing period, kind of like a winter state. I consider winter kind of like a pause. You know, I really reflect nature and the seasons, and to me, winter is a pause. So it was like a pause for the whole country, kind of a winter period, which allows for rest and reflection. And it just allows, like, when we're in this constant productivity mode, we're never reflecting. Very rarely are we like, do we even have the time or energy to reflect or like even check stats, you know, like, am I where I wanted to be? Am I still in line with, you know, with whatever? And so from my perspective, and not just with me, but with the people within my circle, a lot of us were doing a lot of reevaluating, you know, and looking at those things like, well, if it doesn't matter anymore, why am I trying to do it this certain way, you know?
100. And I relate to that so much, and I think so many people do, because it really was this like winter. I love that, how you put that, and that it's not that everything is dead in winter.
No.
Like it's
just resting.
It's necessary.
Yeah, it goes within. It goes within. Like the trees go within. Everything that was once out goes within. And in my perspective, I mean, it depends on where you live and it depends on your climate. But here in North America, winter is, this period where everything goes inside the plants and the bulbs. Everything goes under the ground. Everything kind of goes within, and then it rejuvenates and for us as humans, we're conscious in a different way, so we reflect.
And we were kind of talking before about when you lived in Belize and that difference in weather.
Yes.
And that for your winter there, did you have the normal sort of where things lost their leaves and
No. There's just it's like almost at the equator, Belize, and so it's like 12 hours of day and night almost always. It fluctuates slightly throughout the year, but basically it's an even 12 and 12 always. And then their seasons are just like they have two, a rainy season and a dry season. So it went where I grew up from four very, very, very distinct seasons. I'm from Washington, so we have a very beautiful spring and a distinct summer and a fall. I mean, everything's distinct to two totally different seasons. And so within that period, I would say there's kind of restful periods within both instead of it being like a one period, with winter, one season. I think within both of those seasons, because in the rainy season there's storms, like it's hurricane season, and so sometimes you're just trapped inside and you got to reflect. But as far as things growing and kind of there's a season for everything. That's the difference with Belize. There's a season for everything. You can't get avocados all year, but there's a season for avocados. You can't get mangoes all year, but there's a season for mangoes.
And to me, that just would make me appreciate it all so much more.
And then you just like really enjoy it when it's there, and then kind of get to a period where you miss it when it's gone. And so it's this kind of constant flow where here, the cycles are messed up a little bit,
It's literally like everything all at once, and it's really up to you to sort of try to decipher, what's best for you or what's going on, or it's very confusing. Like I feel like we're waking up from this really confusing era of humanity. Yeah. And that element of, maybe more isn't more, maybe less is more, and maybe I don't need everything available all the time.
Yeah.
Like how maybe that isn't what's best.
Yeah, that's overwhelming for me. Like having everything all the time. When I lived in Belize for 7 years, and so when I would come home, when you move to a new place, you expect to have culture shock. I never expected it coming home. I never even thought about culture shock coming home. So the first time I came home, culture shock slapped me in the face and gave me a panic attack and was just like, welcome home.
Wow.
Because it was overwhelming. There's too many choices. There was too much. And when I would go to just do a simple thing, I would just get so overwhelmed with all the decisions I had to make to do one simple thing, or just to get a box of cereal. I would just stand at the cereal aisle just like, I don't know, and I would just walk out. I just couldn't even make decisions because there were just too many at first. Like it would be this, the working through my culture shock would be working through all the decisions that I would have to make here just to do basic things.
That's amazing. I don't hear that talked about. And I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, I think it probably depends on where you're coming from.
Totally.
Because if, more modern places, they're going to have a lot of things, or, like in Japan, everything's electronic. Like there's different places in the world where it's going to be different. But I came from a developing country, and so there was just like, everything just had a few choices. It wasn't like just so much abundance everywhere.
What brought you to Belize?
So I went, I had an inspired thought to go back to school to open my own early education schools based in cultural sustainability. I'm part Native American and was raised really traditionally Native American. And was seeing when I became a young adult that we were losing a lot of our cultural traditions and stuff. And so I just had this inspired thought to start to introduce that to the youth and teach that to kids to help sustain it. Like we were talking about on our way here, kind of introduce culture at a young age, and start to just incorporate music and dance and food and all these things kind of in an early education environment. So I went back to school, went back to college, and I had a friend who was living in Belize I went to high school with, and she would come back to visit family, and we would keep in touch. And so at some point I had mentioned I was going back to school and what for, and she said, "Oh, well, I'm teaching in Belize, like we should do something together," because the village she lived in, she doesn't live there anymore, but it's like the cultural hub of these African descended people in the Caribbean who escaped slavery and were originally on St. Vincent's Island, but migrated across the Caribbean Sea, like in these tiny kayaks, dories, and settled along the coast of Central America. So her village was like the cultural hub in Belize of that. So it was, again, cultural sustainability. So there got to a point where our ideas came together and we had an opportunity to run a school together. And so I went to run a school, a small little private school with my best friend. We've now been friends for like 27 years. And do like cultural sustaining, empowering education. Like we kind of rewrote the books on educating and made it fun and made it empowering, and did really hands-on. We do free writing on the beach and tree ID for our village, and we'd go to Mayan temples for field trips and baboon things. Like it was just amazing. So I went there to run a school, did that for 3 years.
That's literally the dream. Like everything you're saying, it feels like, the world is crying out for.
Oh, that's good.
Like so much like that.
I feel like that too. Like I've always kind of been a little bit ahead of the curve on certain things, and I feel like when I was doing that, there was very few people that were like ready to leave everything behind. Because I had never been to Belize. I made the decision in 5 minutes. In 1 month, I had sold everything I owned, and then I moved. I went from a whole apartment to myself to like a car to 2 suitcases. Yeah, and sight unseen, just like, I think you got to risk big to gain big in life sometimes.
It is, and listening to your heart, right? Listening to your inner calling.
Yes.
As crazy as it might look from the outside, and as much as the mind wants to talk you out of it, and don't do that. What are you talking about? Like what? Huh?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I just have this feeling that this is what I need to do.
Yeah. I really believe in trusting your inner calling. I talk about that a lot. And I'm wanting to share that more because I think that's a part of why I've been able to live the life I live. There's a lot of reasons, but one of them is I really, truly trust myself and I follow my inner voice, no matter what.
Have you always, or is that something that you've developed?
I developed it. I've had it now for like 20 years, but I got really sick when I was 21 and almost went blind. And they were going to like cut my eyeballs out and all kinds of stuff. Like I was literally going blind, and I was diagnosed to eventually go blind and all this stuff. So through that, like, that's a whole nother story on my YouTube channel.
Yes, on her YouTube channel. Is it Wild Roots?
Yeah, Wild Roots Art.
Wild Roots Art.
Yeah, because it's a really long story. But basically, I was at a crossroads. I decided to trust in the unknown and follow my path to healing. And I promised myself that if I was successful, that I would never settle in my life, that I would lead a really passionate life, and that I would follow my heart and trust, because the universe showed me that I could trust by healing me from this unhealable, uncurable sickness. That I could have faith in things, even if it felt really scary. So because I was healed, I don't wear glasses, and I'm getting older now, so I got some reading glasses and stuff. But like, I should have gone blind, I should have totally gone blind. So because of that, I made this promise to myself that I could never break, because I made it to myself, that I just wouldn't settle and I would just live. no matter how scary it was. And it's been scary. Life can be scary, but it's been beautiful. And now I have like these really rich stories, and I think some lessons, because like when you stick it out, things work out in really crazy ways and amazing ways, and you learn things that you'll never lose.
It really, truly, yes. And like the gold is in the experience. And that's something I think we gain. We were talking about just maturity and getting older. And I never realized like the gold just in what I was going through. Because you can't, right? Like in the middle of the darkness, it's dark.
Yeah, you're just trying to survive.
Like you're feeling your way through it. And that's one of the gifts that the darkness brings you, is your ability to then tap into these other senses.
Yeah, that's really beautifully said.
Lead you.
Yeah.
Because and to make the promise to yourself, right? And
yeah.
In spite of these professionals telling you what's going to happen to you.
Yeah. I mean, the diagnosis, that's why you should really watch that story, because if you have watched it, like I get confronted years later with the other path. Like I meet somebody who chose the other path randomly. Like the universe, it gives me goosebumps, because the universe is so amazing when you release and you give in and you just like surrender. That's the word I'm looking for. When you can surrender to the universe, it is amazing, and it will show you things that you could never have like created or manifested for yourself. So years after I manifested my path to healing, I manifested meeting someone who chose the other path, who chose to believe the doctors, who went through all the surgeries, who ended up going completely blind, had a seeing eye dog. She was actually in my ceramics class, and I was just like drawn to her, and because she had, it's like the super rare thing, you know, it wasn't something very common. It's very, very rare. So the universe showed me even like, this could have been you if you would have made this other decision. My life would have been over, but it would have been not this version of Jamari, you know?
It's so much. And I notice that a lot just in my life. I'll encounter people and I'm just very aware of, wow, that's me in an alternate dimension. Like that's me. Like, and it gives me so much compassion too, and understanding where I used to have, you know, maybe disdain or anger. Like, why is this person like this? And now it's like, like I'm just grateful that isn't my experience, that this is my experience. By the grace of God go I, you know?
Yeah. I think for me, it's like evidence that we really are manifesting our reality when I have those type of interactions, when I'm confronted with those things, or I'm able to see those things. I feel like it's a little kind of kiss from the universe. It's a blessing. Like you're doing okay. You know, you're doing pretty darn good, gal. Like, it could have been like this, and it's over here. And so just take a look at that and, you know, gauge it for yourself, but just know like you're doing pretty darn good, gal. Ease up.
Yes.
Ease up.
Yes. And that element too, like just being more gentle on ourselves.
Yes.
And not thinking that we have to have all the answers for the future right now.
Yeah. That's like having faith and kind of letting go. You know you don't have the answers. You know, you don't. And in this physical world, in this physical reality that we've all incarnated into, especially if you live in a modern society, you're constantly like programmed to see all of this stuff all the time and forget all the space and everything magical that's in the empty space, you know?
It's so gnarly you say that. Gnarly is my new favorite word.
Oh, I love gnarly.
My new favorite old world. Yeah, radical.
Totally radical.
But I've been doing some thinking about that too, of space and emptiness, and realizing, oh my God, like we're completely blind to it. Like we're so focused on this, we forget the mother, that we're still in the womb, that everything really is connected, and everything we take for granted is emptiness, is fullness. And we're literally like floating and moving through this living divine existence that is so mysterious that all we can hope is just to be able to experience it more and more fully. I think age brings that.
And I think maybe maturity brings just like knowing you can't figure it all out. I spent a lot of my earlier years like just trying to absorb as much information as I could, just feed myself information. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know
Yeah.
all about it, learn all about it in school and read books at home. I
Yeah.
just was like, I mean, I've read thousands of books, you know, and listened to documentaries and podcasts and just any information that I could. And I think a lot of that was very important for whatever reasons in my life. But now I feel like the mystery, like I've surrendered to the mystery and I don't need to know. Like I don't even want to know anymore. I don't even really care anymore. But I don't, you know, I like have relinquished that like needing to know or need like that's a part of trusting and being faithful and like, you know, stepping out and all those things is that you you just have to trust in the mystery of it. You have to believe in the mystery and then you got to trust in the mystery so that the mystery can unveil itself to you in like all these amazing ways. When we're too caught up in the physicalities of everything, then that's what we experience over and over. You know, we just experience more of the physicalities. When we can let that go, then magic shows itself to us.
And that's the work, right? We don't even realize how tight we've been holding on our whole life, and until something comes that gives us no choice, oftentimes. No, we always have a choice, right? Okay, I'm going to hold on tighter or I'm going to let go.
Yeah. I think it's sometimes those big things that where we just can't hold on anymore. That and we're forced to let go. Like that for me that sickness was the first time in my life as an adult that I was forced to let go. There was nothing I could do except have faith. Like I had done everything I could do and it was just up to something higher. It was up to a different power at that point because I had physically done everything that I could do and my physicality was saying something that I refused to accept. Like I just refused to accept it. So sometimes stubbornness is good. Hold on to that stubborn behind.
I love that. It's looking at these qualities that maybe we can be, right, detrimental, but we have a shadow for a reason, you know, like those aspects of ourselves that maybe we've deemed bad or culture's deemed bad or parents have deemed bad, you know, there's always a gift. And like you said, with that stubbornness, it is just, for me, I would say maybe one of mine I think of is my optimism, and which has sometimes led me, you know, places where it's like, oh, this isn't how I thought it was going to go. But you know, keeping that, no, I still believe ultimately that it's going to work out.
And it does. It always does. That's the reality of it. Now with my age and wisdom and maturity, like that's why at this point I can really let go because I know everything I look back on, no matter how grim it seemed, it always worked out.
That's such a valuable piece of experience.
Yeah, I think when you're younger, like that's a part of it. You don't know, you don't have the experience to know. Like it's your first time doing everything. It's my first time trying to get an apartment. It's my first time getting a car. It's my first time, whatever it is. And so that like freak out of like, what do I do? You know, but when you've done it a bunch of times or you've had similar experiences, maybe not exact, but similar enough, then you're like, it's going to work itself out because you faced way grimmer things and it worked out. And so you just kind of learn to know, you know?
Yes, Jamari. I love it. Oh my gosh. Everything you say just resonates so much. And it's been like that ever since my first conversation with you. It's I love that when I can meet someone and it's just like, oh, I see you, I hear you, I understand you. I don't have to do all this background explanation to sort of get up to speed. Like we see, you know, a similar world, which is nice. Even when we got coffee, I bought one of your prince, which I love so much. Oh my gosh, it's a king. And we got coffee, and it was kind of it was 2020, I think. It was during the pandemic, and
I think so too.
And it was nice to just be able to relate to somebody who's sort of, saw things as I saw them, that we were able to move through it just in a little bit different way. Not to mean it wasn't difficult and scary and earth shaking, but being through other traumatic things, we'd already kind of got our sea legs, so to say.
Yeah. So we were just riding it out.
Yeah.
And staying optimistic.
Yes.
I'm like disgustingly optimistic too.
I love that. When is your birthday?
February 23rd. It just passed.
Oh, happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
What's your sun?
Pisces.
Pisces. Oh. What's your moon? Do you know?
I don't know, because I don't understand those things. I do it and I try to like put it in the memory bank, but then it goes out because I don't understand it to have that connection.
Totally.
Compartmentalize it,
Totally.
So I'll know to tell somebody because they ask me on the spot, and then it's like out of my mind.
Only in the last few years have I actually gotten there and been like, oh, okay. But it's taken a long time.
I love it. And like my mom had our charts read when we were small, like, and sent them to my Christian grandma, who like burned them or threw them away or something. So, I've always been into it, but I think it's a skill that once upon a time only certain people had.
Yes.
It's a skill that like was not a mainstream thing when I was a kid, and it was something that you kind of depended on astrologers to interpret for you. And now with like all the technology, people self-interpret more, but I'm just old school. Like, I need somebody to interpret it for me.
Right. Totally. Totally. I found a friend, Autumn, through Instagram, Autumn Joy, and she's helped me. She did my birth chart for me, and that was really eye-opening and cool. And too, like you were saying about, in the beginning, just being so thirsty for knowledge, and for me too, wanting to know who I was. Yeah. And so trying and looking in any way I could, and I was open to any bits of information like that would help me in some way understand who I was.
Yeah, I think I went through that period too. I used to have like there's this birthday book. I don't know if you remember the birthday book. It was this big thick book. A certain author that did several books like that. But there was one that like had every day of the year, and you could look up your day, and it would give all this information that was way more in depth than just like horoscopes or numerology or anything. And man, we used to pack that around. Y'all don't even know what we used to have to do to spread the knowledge back in the day. We used to have to carry heavy books.
I used to hang out in Barnes and Noble.
Go me too.
And I would go.
Like a fun Saturday.
Yes, and I'd bring my notebook, and I would oftentimes only have money to buy one book.
Yeah.
And so I would have to, think very hard about which book am I taking home, and then which one am I just going to read here and write as much as I can. And I was thinking about that the other day of like, wow, like that's kind of a lost art.
I went in Barnes and Noble to look for some kind of like an art book 2 years ago at least. And it was like a ghost town. It was so weird. It was cool because back in the day you could never find anywhere to sit and read your books.
Yes.
All the chairs
I would sit on the floor. I was just like, guess it's on the
sit
carpet.
At the end of an aisle somewhere. There, it was open, but it just was like I could feel the difference in that kind of generational gap, because a lot of the people that were in there were older people, like me. I mean, a lot of people just do stuff on their phone or just order it through Amazon. People, that's like a old thing. I go look at my art magazines. There's some really fancy magazines that they only have at Barnes and Noble. Certain things that just are nostalgic, you know, if I'm around one and I got the time.
Totally.
I'm going to go and get that nasty Starbucks. That's disgusting with your weird machine that doesn't make real espresso. And go find a book in a corner for 30 minutes.
And buy it from somebody who doesn't want to be there or make it.
Yep. That's miserable. And you cheer up their day with your optimism because you're so happy.
I said with whip.
Yeah.
What is this?
Once upon a time, dude.
One thing we were talking about on the way here, which was really cool, we were talking about the element of the feminine and that sort of being squashed out of our culture. And you said how, growing up half Indigenous, where it was very matriarchal.
Yeah, it is.
And I was wondering just to speak more to that, just how that
Yeah.
was and how that is for you and like in you, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
part of who you are.
So yeah, Indigenous culture, like there's like 550 tribes in North America, documented tribes. So every tribe's different, but the majority have similar understandings and perspectives, and ultimately, like natives we're really in touch with nature. Like nature is our true teacher, and we recognize that anything feminine sustains us. Like the feminine is what keeps us alive. We wouldn't be alive without the feminine. Like in my perspective and in most indigenous cultures, the divine feminine is the most sacred thing, and I know through certain works that I'm doing, not as mainstream with my art, I'm trying to kind of build that energy back up, in my own way, because I just feel it so strong and I can't ignore it. But our lodges that we create are they're usually in replication of a womb. Like the sweat lodge, the inipi ceremony, that is our recreation of a womb. That's what we're going into. We respect it and we treat it and we act in that space like we're inside of Mother Earth's womb. Wow. That's what we're recreating, is Mother Earth's womb. I was explaining to you, like when we'd have feasts, potlucks or potlatches, ceremonial ceremonies, there's always food involved. And even though the women would be the ones that cooked, we were also the first ones that ate. And it would be the eldest first down to the youngest girl, and then the men ate. They wouldn't eat ever before the women. Wow. There are different things, like certain ceremonies, if a woman is on her moon time, which is like our, period, she would be separated from some of the ceremonies, because some of the ceremonies are cleansing. It's a purification ritual. And as women, we naturally purify our bodies and we naturally purge and we naturally do that. So we would be separated during those sacred times so that our body could do what was natural, because basically the men are imitating what we naturally do. Wow. And that's really how it is. That's how I was taught and raised. So to have that perspective, to be in these circles and to be treated with the utmost respect, to always be given a seat, to always be given food, to always be like protected and nurtured because you're the life giver, and then step out into the world and be like, F you, black woman.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It was crazy.
Talk about just a total, like, what?
Yeah. It was like a very I wouldn't say confusing, because I always knew the native way was the way. Mm-hmm. Whatever way I was taught outside of that was like the white man's way. So that's how we talk about it.
Yes.
Well, that's just the white man's way.
And it almost, it took me, I feel like, a long time to start to recognize that, because it was just my culture. Like it was just like I was out in this patriarchal world where the nature wasn't what we looked to. Mm-mm. Women, it was about the male gaze. Mm-hmm. I hadn't even realized how much of my life I lived for the male gaze. Mm-hmm. Where anytime from being a young teenager, 12, and just feeling men's eyes on me or whatnot, and knowing that I was lesser on some feeling, but knowing I wasn't. Mm-hmm. Like always feeling like, no, part of the reason why I wanted to be king, is I'm not second.
Polly, yes.
Thank you, Jamari. Yes. You've always been so supportive. I appreciate it so much. I really do. But it is just such an interesting and reawakening to something that you have always felt.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean there was still crazy stuff going on, and there were still, certain things that were weird. in life. And in certain communities, you know, people are people. Like, people are peopling and people adapt certain behavior patterns. So, but the culture overall and the overall vibe and how it was presented overall was in that fashion. You know, and so I remember like explaining to, I don't know if it was my husband or one of my, I've had so many boyfriends, one of the two boyfriends. But trying to explain to them being a woman and being like, it was a person of color, whoever the man was a person of color. And explaining to them, as much as you did not choose to be a person of color, I did not choose to be a woman. And I did not choose all these crazy things I'm expected to do. Like I didn't choose this, and I don't just know how to do this because I didn't know how to adapt to like that. I didn't know how to be submissive to my man. I didn't know how to like cater to a dude. To me, that was like disrespectful.
Totally. Totally.
And the fact that you want me to do that is very disrespectful. And so later for you, you know, it was like, it was really weird. And so there was always kind of this like, because in the Indigenous culture, women, because we're respected, we are more dominant then. We don't silent ourselves. We don't like, we say it, because our knowledge is valuable, it's useful, it helps the people, it helps the tribe, it helps the community, it helps our family. It is helpful. Our knowledge, that's why the elders are the most respected. Their experience and their knowledge is the most valuable thing for the continuity of the people. So I was naturally dominant in those, like Native women, we joke because we are dominant. We're not like, we're gonna talk back. We're not gonna let you. I know women who would fight men, you know, fight police. Like they were as rowdy as the dudes. They were not scared, you know. They were not intimidated by that, and that was just like a normal thing, you know. It was, and so my husband is Belizean, very patriarch-driven society. They were colonized in some of the worst ways. The Catholic Church has just brainwashed people for many generations there. And so we clash a lot because he wants to be catered to and I want to be catered to.
Yes. I relate to that a lot.
Yeah.
I was never one, especially with being with my husband too. It was these things, like we joke, he's kind of more feminine in certain respects.
That's
like
good. You want the
cooking,
balance.
cleaning.
Yes.
I mean, he did my laundry for years until one day he was like, "Why am I doing your laundry?"
That's
and
great.
I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right, I'll do it. I'll do my laundry. It's fine. I can do it." But I just knew growing up, I didn't like this is what boys' chores are. This is what girls' chores are. But then part of me was like, well, I get to be inside, so I'd rather be inside than out in that hot Vegas sun. So certain things, I was like, okay, I'll take this, which, you know, in retrospect, it's like, you know, I don't want to just cherry pick the certain.
And I do believe in roles. Like I do. I'm a supporter of roles. I think that's how we get things done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying
we need structure.
Yeah,
we need.
I'm just saying I didn't grow up with the mentality to bow down to my man and let him treat me any kind of way, and you know what I'm saying, and just deal with it because I'm a woman. Just be talk, you know, whatever. Because some dudes, you know, they push those boundaries. Anybody that gets a little bit of power, sometimes their ego is gonna come out, and it's gonna test some of that. You know, I do think my husband and I too. I mean, he his way of relieving stress is to clean or to clean the kitchen. You know, it's like a relieving thing. If we've gotten in a little tiff, that's what he goes to cool his head off. He'll go do the dishes, you know. I'm like,
that's
no.
the last thing on earth I would choose to do on earth.
Same, you see, and we're white. And we are not going to do the dishes.
That's I will get more upset.
Bro, I will break those dishes. Do you hear me? That's what I will do. I will break the dishes. If you're trying to make me do the dishes after an argument, they're all broken. No dishes. That paper plates only. I couldn't. No, I gotta go literally cool off.
I love it.
Take a walk or like go just put myself in a timeout. I can't do, things. But for him, it's like, it's this thing. So there's those different things. And because he was like raised in this kind of, to me, like really old way of thinking, he was like, the first part of a relationship was working a lot of that stuff out, because he was very much like, you're the wife, you need to do this. But I also ran whole entire resorts when we first got married. Like, I was the manager of resorts. So before I was a teacher and ran schools, in my previous life before that, I worked in hospitality and tribal casinos and resorts. So that came back a mixture with the school, and I ended up running a resort on the Caribbean island, or an island in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, like right on the Barrier Reef. And so I had this very serious, like, dang near 24-hour-a-day job, and he wanted me to fulfill these wifely roles. And so I was just like, hey, like, there's no way I can do all these things. Like, and I think that's really common for a lot of women. It's like we're expected to do a lot of things. And I ain't doing all that.
No, it's not possible. That's the other thing too, they've removed the village, with help.
Yes.
Anything is possible,
Yes.
but it's so much. It's not at all sustainable or realistic. And we wonder why, the system is crumbling and people are breaking, and families, and just the state of the world. And again, we've lost our connection to nature. We've lost the mother. We've lost our voice. And two, listening to you, it really makes me realize, how silenced I was growing up. And that's been a lot of my work, is recovering my voice, finding my voice, even in terms of how low it is now. It took a long time to get here, because and working customer service, it was just like, hi, and I knew exactly what to do and the part to play to be, girl, to be, nice, polite, and what I thought my role was on this planet.
I learned how to play that role. I mean, I was raised native, but in America, and so definitely I adapted that too, and have been working through it as well in my own way. I think as women, that's a part of our divineness, but the squashing of the sacred and the divine, because so many women, I went through it, all my friends have went through it. We give ourselves over to whatever if it's our family, our husbands, our job, our school, we give ourselves fully over. And in that process, we lose ourselves, or we lose these big parts of ourselves trying to fill a role or adapt or people please or do these different things. And, I've heard this from friends that are parents, all the ways I've mentioned, like, God, I didn't even realize I totally lost myself. I had lost myself in trying to be the perfect wife and be this couple, like, it's us, not me anymore. There's all these things that as women, we in our society, we're just taught that we need, in order to be appreciated, to get the love that we want, to be valued, then we need to behave in these certain type of ways. And if we don't, then we don't have any of those things. We're never going to get the love. We don't have any value. We don't matter, and that is a bunch of crap.
Yes.
For those of you out there, don't listen to that. That's a bunch of crap. It's a bunch of lies.
Yes.
To keep you mentally stuck and effed.
And powerless, it really does. And
because when you come out of that, you realize, like, it's like I've been asleep.
Yeah.
It's like I've been
Truly.
sleepwalking through my life.
Truly.
What has happened for the past so many years? Like, I have been here, but not here. It's a trip, but it's a growing thing. I think it's a part of growth and expansion. And like I said, almost all the women I know in one form or another have experienced it. So it's something that's a part of our journey as women, that maybe because we are natural nurturers, like it doesn't feel bad to give ourselves to these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're dragging us by our feet, like kicking and screaming. We're like happy to do it.
Yes.
I'm so happy to do this. I love it. I'll do it all the time. So we're like crying before we gotta go do it one day,
Right.
and we're like, whoa, what happened?
And then the
This doesn't
burnout.
feel good anymore.
Totally. Well, you
Yeah.
can't keep it up.
Yeah, because it's not real.
And that's the gift in kind of that weight breaking is, okay, well, now I can finally begin
yeah.
on solid ground
Yeah.
of my choosing and who I really am, and letting go of this really colonizing view of the world,
Yeah.
which I didn't even realize that I was indoctrinated into, and that school was such a big part of my indoctrination. I mean, I was that little kid that was memorizing the Gettysburg Address and all the presidents and all the states, and, and
Yeah.
so desperate for real knowledge,
Yeah.
like we all are.
And just, wanting to be good and wanting to, know it. But you just realize, you realize as you age, it's all fake. It's
Mm-hmm.
all crap.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a story someone told. You can believe their story. You can create your own story. You can create a combination of those things. None of it is written in stone, and none of it is so serious. Like, it's all a story. All of it. It's all a story. And it's all from a perspective.
Yes.
Unless you were there with your own story and your own perspective, you're just hearing part of it. No matter what it is, whether it's history, no matter what it is. And, with the colonial view, that's a whole nother thing that, they've tried hard to squash, but the reality is the truth always comes to light.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings are always gonna persevere.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what. We're adaptable. We're like roaches. You can't get rid of us.
Yes. The human spirit, the heart, like you can control my mind, you can control my body, you can, all of these things, but you cannot control my spirit.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that breaks through the shell, right? Every time.
Yeah, it does.
And
it
it's
really
just,
does.
And I think about too with, even in just claiming, you're an artist, like what that does, because that isn't an easy thing to claim.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I know for me it was, I can't call myself an artist because, I didn't go to school, or I haven't sold something, or I'm not really that good at this, or, ooh, and it really is like, no.
Says who?
Well, when did you have a moment like that where you were like, I'm an artist,
Well, I've
and I'm
always been an
claiming
artist.
this?
So the first time I tried to sell my art, I was 5. Like literally. So my mom was a painter too. She was a watercolor artist and tried to have a gallery and all that stuff when I was a young kid, but was a young single mother, and eventually had to get into the real world, and all that. But I grew up with both my parents chasing their dreams. Like we lived in LA for a while because my dad was a musician and my mom was a painter. And so it was something I was always around. I was always around artists. I was always around like Indigenous artists making beadwork. It wasn't even like, it wasn't always traditional art. It would be these other forms of art that were legitimate art, and to me, like, more amazing because, like, the beadwork, they would kill the deer, gut the deer, tan the hide. Like, they would do all the steps, and I would watch all those steps. So I was learning these crazy things. So anyways, not to get off topic, because all my stories lead into a million other stories. Sorry, guys.
That's great.
I was always doing art. In Belize, I got stuck there in charge of drug trafficking for some weed after weed was legalized in Washington. Another story that I have to tell another time. Excuse me. And I was literally trapped there. They had my passport, and I just was waiting for court, and met an artist that was traveling all of South and Central America from Argentina. He stayed with us for a period of time, and we talked about art. And through our wonderful conversations, I realized the only way I'm ever going to be an artist is if I just do it. Like, there's never going to be a right time or a right place or a right, like, I just have to do it. Like everything else I'd ever done in my life and all the other scary things that I had done, I just had to jump off the building. I just had to jump off the cliff and just trust that I was in the Matrix. You know, I did, though. I realized this is always going to be something in the back of my mind, because the reason I didn't do it as a profession was because I believed all the stuff everybody said. I'm never going to make it. It's not a career, blah, blah, blah. But then I was meeting people and had met this person that had been living for 3 years, traveling the world on his art, or South and Central America on his art alone. And he made it work, and it was just so inspiring. So at that point, I decided to stop, like, managing resorts and doing all these other things that took so much of my time and energy, running schools and opening libraries and all these other things, and just dedicate my life to art for a period of time. And when I did that, I just loved it so much that I just knew, like, nobody needs to tell me shit. This is what I am.
Yes.
This is what I am. And I'm just, like, lying to myself and everybody to say I'm not. Because I will make anything art. I'll find pieces of garbage and make art. I'll recycle things and make art. That's what I realized. I'll find sticks and leaves and rocks and I'll make art. Like, it doesn't need to be a certain circumstance, a certain materials, a certain set of things set up. I'm going to make beautiful things anywhere I go, because I love that. I love to see beautiful things, and I love to share beautiful things. There's so much ugliness in the world. I want to help make it beautiful.
That's so beautiful, Jamari. You do.
In all the ways. Yeah.
You really do. And again, that element of when you meet someone who is living their truth and is following their joy and has claimed their throne, you feel it.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
And it's so inspiring, and it ripples out. And with being an artist, right, and a creator, sometimes, and being a human, you don't know the effect you have. Like, you truly don't.
No, you don't.
You truly don't.
We forget that a lot. That's why we need to be reminded all the time.
Yes, truly, we do.
Because we go through imposter syndrome on the regs.
Yes.
I mean, in weird ways, too. Like, I know I'm an artist, but I'll question, should I change my style? Should I change what I do? Should I make it more marketable? Should I make it more commercial or sellable? Those are the ways in which we become imposters, because we sacrifice our true vision for sellable stuff. But even with that, that's been my latest journey. So at the beginning of 2022, at the end of 2021, in the beginning, I lost 5 people, like, very suddenly.
Oh, Jamari, I'm sorry.
So that's why I was out of commission for a while, because I was in a deep mourning period. And the ones, like, at the first cousin I was very, very close with and grew up with, OD'd after a relapse on New Year's Day, and it was fentanyl. And I'm saying this because we need to let people understand this epidemic with fentanyl. It
Truly.
is scary as fuck. I'm going to cuss. Don't do street drugs. I mean, people are dying from taking Xanax and pain medication. It's not just the dope, okay? It's like all kind of stuff. So that was horrible, because now people's mental health are being affected from this pandemic situation. It's bringing up addictions. It's bringing out things that people had tried to heal. And so it was just all these things in our face. And then a good friend here in Vegas, probably our closest friend here in Vegas, just, like, dropped dead. Like, they don't know what happened. He was at Red Rock. Friends were visiting. They hiked. They took pictures. Brought his friend to the airport. There's, like, an hour span of time where nobody talked to him. And then they found his body. And
wow.
And so it was a reevaluating again. Sometimes we're faced with these crazy parts of life, like, we all know that death is a part of this reality, and we all experience it, but there's ways in which it can come that it just shakes your foundation, And so it was like that, and with that, it made me like I thought about quitting art before all that happened. I was thinking about quitting art because not because I don't love it, because I couldn't make money. I wasn't making money after the
Right.
pandemic. All the ways that I made my money were taken away because it was all vending and being in person and live painting and these things. And I didn't want to be another person trying to sell stuff to people. You know, I was just really battling these ideals. And then when I experienced all this death, I realized that it doesn't really matter in the way of like caring so much. Like, just do what feels good. You just got to follow that good feeling, because we don't know how much time we have here. We don't want to waste the little bit we might have on bad feelings or holding on to some grudge or holding on to some ideal that is not working out that I can't let go of because I have attachment issues.
Right. Yes. I relate to that so much because it is, I find myself even now, I'll sort of sink into this darkness because I'm attached to the result and I'm waiting on a result.
Yeah.
And intellectually, I understand it's about the journey. It's not about the fruit. And I intellectually understand that. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't. I mean, I live in, this world where capitalism reigns and you have to make rent and and jobs are disappearing and things are totally changing, yet we're all still having to monetarily show up in this weird way that truly actually doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
And it is those like moments, like you said, of it's not about, right, like, I don't care, I don't give a fuck about nothing. It's like, no, I am free.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
exactly.
Okay, I don't have to like mind care. I heart care fully.
Yep.
But these other things I kind of have to loosen my attachment to.
Yeah.
Which is the work.
But it allowed me to start to like share my story. Like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? You're like, we all are waiting for this perfect moment or the stars to align just right. I believe in alignment. I'm not talking shit about alignment. I'm just saying, like, sometimes you just got to do it. You just got to go. Most of the things that have been the best experiences or the most like rewarding experiences were things that were very, very hard to start. Very hard to do in the beginning. I was scared shitless. I didn't know how it was gonna work it so well, but that's you risk big, you gain big. You gotta let it go and recognizing, like, I remind myself constantly, I am not immortal. I am a mortal person. My time here is limited. So that I don't get caught up in this fantasy that I'm gonna live forever. But still facing these sudden losses was this huge wake-up call of we just don't know. And the most realist thing that we do know is that it all has a time limit.
It is. It's like we're infinite beings, but in a finite experience.
Yeah, this experience, because I know we're infinite.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's like with this
that's
body.
why I'm not afraid of that transition and going through these losses. Even though it was still a mourning period. I do believe in an afterlife. I feel truly, my heart sinks for people who don't. But this experience, everything dies. Everything.
Yes.
Bugs and plants and everything, And so we're bamboozled into believing just buy more cream and you're going to live forever. Just get these pills and you're going to live forever. Just do this injections, you're going to live forever. Yes. Whatever it is, no matter what you do, we're not living forever. So just live your life the best you can right now.
Yes.
Like right now.
100 here and now. That's
right now.
That's currently my husband's sort of go-to mantra. Here is holy.
I love that.
That helps me a lot because I can get
that, like,
yes, here is holy. And like being here and now and all the answers, everything we seek or need, it's here. It's when I'm in my mind and I'm all the way up there that of course I'm not going to be able to function really well because I'm not actually here. And so that's just everything you said was just, it hits home and it hits the truth chord within me.
I'm so glad. I really try to, like, not just say these things, but live it too. You know, I grew up, especially even in the Native community. That's why I say there's people in all communities, because there was a lot of people even in those communities who would be very spiritual at ceremony, but then in regular day life, it was like a different person. And as a young person, that was very confusing, you know?
Totally.
It was like, but how can you expect me to believe this if you don't believe this, you know? And just seeing that difference from ceremony to real life. And so for me, I consciously try to not just talk about these things with people and spread this knowledge, but live it and be an example of it, because it's easy to talk about it. It's easy to be all peace and love when you're not dealing with people. It's easy to love the universe
when I'm home alone.
You're not in customer service.
Oh, sweet Lord. Yes.
You know, and I realize that, like, at this current moment of my life, I live in a peace bubble. I've created a peace bubble for myself. I mean, really. And, you know, I do anything to preserve that peace bubble, because outside of that is the world, and within that is peace, you know? And when I can have that little separation, I can deal with the world, you know, because I can go reside in peace.
Totally.
Yeah.
It is that element of like, okay, I come home to myself, I recharge, I refill my peace, you know, I connect, I reconnect, and hope that each time I re-enter the world, it gets a little bit easier.
Exactly, because you have to go back into the world, and you can't be doing all the work at home and not go out into the world. It's both. You got to be in both places.
And it's scary to do that. Like, even in starting the podcast and realizing, okay, this means now I have to, you know, connect and write messages and schedule and do all these things that they don't come easy to me. You know, the creative aspect, I'll swim in that all day.
Yes,
but it is that marrying of the two.
And finding balance in there. I go through a lot of the same things. I have to wear many, many hats doing my art business. And I'm not just the creator. I'm the marketer and the web designer and the, you know, salesperson and the accountant.
And the YouTuber.
Yeah, the YouTuber and the editor.
Yes.
And all that, you know. And before, when I wasn't like as successful with the consistency, it would be because I'd go hard on one thing and then kind of burn out, and then go hard on the next thing. Never really kind of getting anything done, just like going really hard. And I just need to do the computer work for 13 hours, you know. I just need to paint for 12 hours. Like that's what I mean by going hard. Like, but not with any kind of plan in motion, not with any kind of like anything, just thinking that if I did it that way, eventually it was going to work itself out. And the reality is, like you said, you have to give a little bit of attention to all the hats all the time, you know. You can't smother this one and neglect all these and then like think it's going to be easy to bounce back, you know?
And waiting for somebody to rescue me, like waiting for that. Well, somebody can just do this. And it's like, oh, nobody's coming. I have to do it.
Yeah.
But how empowering it is when you are able to, okay, like this is what I have to do. I can do it.
Yep.
Like, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And just, I always think like these are the stories when it gets to the point where you have an assistant and, you know, that you can like tell people like, I used to do all this shit by myself.
100. Like, it's so rich. Like, it's so rich. Like, I always think about that, you know, or even in working in restaurants or, you know, working in all the different roles.
Yeah.
It adds an understanding.
That's how I became a manager of the whole property.
Oh, wow.
Because I had worked in all the departments. I had knowledge of all the departments. I never really worked in housekeeping, but would work side by side because I was always front desk. And I never really worked in restaurants, but I was a waitress, but not in the hospitality setting, but I had that experience. So when it came to running small properties, I had all the experience of all the departments to be able to manage it. And the ones that I didn't, I relied on my team. And then that's where like understanding teams and knowing how to work with teams, because I also believe in utilizing people's skills. Like, I know I am not the best marketer. I cannot wait for the day that I could pay somebody who loves marketing, who's a marketing whiz.
Yes.
And it's just like, bitch, I can't wait to market your stuff.
Totally.
I can't wait for that.
Yes.
You know, and when I was a manager and when I managed properties, that was my favorite part. Like, I would say I'm a good leader because I love to see people's gifts and bring them out and bring them to the table and create that. That's how things work, is like we use everybody's skills. Everybody has value, you know?
That's a gift. And that's, to me, the mark of a good leader, a good manager.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, they're pretty rare in my experience.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of ego and
Yeah.
people, I mean, I get it. I've been run by my ego for a lot of my life, you know, but just this fear of being wrong or looking dumb or not knowing, and realizing our strength really does come from being able to trust other people's abilities.
Yeah.
And not have to think we can control everything or need to know everything.
Yeah.
Or be perfect.
That's it. Like, I wear these hats because I have to right now, because what my vision is big, and I'm not in a place where I can pay all these people to do all these things, but that is a part of my vision.
Yes.
Is to get to that point, to get to the point where I can utilize other people's skills and gifts to help build this thing that I'm trying to build, you know? And because it's not like, you know, we got property in Belize, girl. We're planting a bunch of cacao, mango, and plums, and we want to do an eco resort. And, you know, I'm an avid gardener. I want to do this urban gardening here and introduce people to that and kind of have it open so people can experience that and see, like, it's possible. My thing is, like, empowering people. I think so many things in this world are designed to take our power away or make us feel like we're not powerful because we're so powerful that they got to mind fuck us into believing that we're not. And so all the actions that I try to take are in ways in which I can give people their power back, show them, take your power back. You have had the power all along.
Yes.
It's right there waiting for you. You just got to make these simple little tweaks or these simple little choices a different way, and it all can happen, you know? But, like, really understanding that all your dreams can come true. Like, you can do whatever you set your mind to and overcome all the obstacles that present themselves along the way. It's all just a part of the story.
Oh, Jamari, that was just so beautiful. Oh my gosh, we're already at an hour. The time has come. I feel like what you just said was beautiful.
To talk of many things.
To talk of many things.
You know what that's from?
No.
Alice in Wonderland.
No, sing more.
Now I can't remember it because it was like came off the top of my head. It's when the walrus and the guy eat all the little oysters.
Alice in Wonderland is one of those I love so much the older I get. When I was younger, not so much. And now I'm like, oh my God.
It's always been my favorite. Like, always.
I love
my mom
that.
asked me recently, what was your favorite Disney movie? And I was like, Alice in Wonderland. And it is kind of weird, but girl, I like know the words. I've seen it so many times. I love it. I think I'm Alice.
See, I love it. Mine was Beauty and the Beast because I, you know, had an emotionally unavailable father. So that beast really got at my heartstrings. It's like, oh, if I read enough books and sing enough songs and I'm nice enough and yes, I can do it. He's just in a bad mood.
I have a dad like that too. I don't talk to him anymore.
Yeah.
After this, we'll talk about the family dramas. That's for another episode. King Pollys World.
That's where talent comes from. Strained family relationships.
I just read this thing or saw this thing that was like, you can't have painting without pain. And I was like, God damn, that's so true. Why you do this to me?
Yes.
That's true.
Oh,
all the best painters I know went through a lot of pain.
It's true. It really is. And it's alchemized through the work of creating something,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah, it
is,
is.
like getting it out and
Yeah.
allowing it to, and it's not about somebody else giving you worth, right?
Yeah.
Like you as you are worthy.
Yes.
I love it. Where can people find you, Jamari?
Currently, I am at Wild Roots with a Z, art.com, WILDROOTZ, art, ART. Oh no, that's Instagram. There's going to be a wildrootsart.com coming very, very, very soon. I'm working on that right now. One of my hats
One of our
that I'm
hats.
wearing.
Yeah. The website
Well,
thing
I'm
is
making
so
all
hard.
the videos for it, creating all the things. So very soon though, like literally I'm trying to get it out this next week.
Oh, awesome.
So hopefully that website will be available. So Wild Roots Art at Instagram right now, Wild Roots Art at YouTube. I am doing some videos where I'm sharing my stories, all these crazy stories that I'm hinting around about now, and doing a really beautiful piece of art at the same time. So you can watch me create and listen to some of my stuff. And they usually almost always have a really positive ending, something I've learned, something I can share, something like that.
They are really cool, and that's a really cool idea. That you're not only sharing your story, but you're also like showing the process of a piece, which is it's really cool. And YouTube land is hard. YouTube land is so hard. You guys don't even understand, but consistency, you just keep doing it, and again, the fruit's there.
You just got to keep watering the tree, right?
Yeah.
Just got to keep watering it. I'm a gardener, so I'm good at that. I can keep watering it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you, Jamari.
Love you too,
Thank
buddy.
you so much for being here.
Thank you for sharing your platform.
I'm so excited you could be here.
Yeah.
You're definitely one of my favorite Vegas artists.
Oh, that's cool. There's a lot of
And
amazing
humans.
artists here.
There are.
There's a lot of really amazing creatives in Vegas. If you don't know, come check it out. The art district is booming. It's growing. I just saw it on the news. It's growing more, and there's an amazing creative scene here. People from all over the world, all walks of life, all different. What is the word? God, it starts with a D.
I hate when I
Multi. Anyways, people that do a lot of different things.
Dimensional?
No, that's what's coming, but
yeah. You guys tell us. Oh, yay!
Multidisciplinary things. Yes. Singers, dancers, painters. Vegas is an amazing city.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's really blooming. Like this element, I love that we get to sort of, I feel, witness a bloom.
Yeah, I agree.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We love you. Have an excellent rest of your day, night, week, life.
Yes.
Sayonara.
Peace and love.